Hello everybody and welcome to DC Fine Art. I finally received my ivory Faber Castell Artist brush pen that I ran out of on my second part of this video. And I wanted to go ahead and show you guys at least some more of the corncob leaf with me finishing it, and that way you kind of see the finished product. And it's a little bit bigger version on this bottom part, and you're probably able to see a little bit more than you would with me doing that little section on top. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this in, and that way you guys can see me do a bigger, piece of the corn cob leaf, or at least the husk. And so here I'm just kind of brushing out some of my little lines that I kind of drew just to kind of give me an idea, kind of sped through that. But it's kind of, a longer process. I just used basically my normal colors that I used, or not, I shouldn't say normal colors, but I'd used like the earth green as being like the one that I drew in all the little lines of these corncob leaves. And this is just basically me in real time, just kind of showing you just how slow I'm just taking my time. I'm not necessarily rushing through really, really quick. I know a lot of the videos you see me, do the speed up or speed through. And this time I'm just kind of doing a little bit slower, at least with this part. I will speed up a little bit once I get through the majority of what I'm doing. If it's kind of the same kind of technique through, I may speed up just a little bit just to kind of get us through it. But there I just used, like I said, the earth green, and then I went over the top of it with my ivory, and then a little bit with the white just to kind of dim it down a little bit. So you can do that. But I absolutely love my ivory. Like, that was my main, I guess, pen, should I say. And yeah, when it was gone, I was like, yeah, I can't continue this, not until I get some more ordered in. So I went ahead and I've got some more in. Super excited about that, so that way I can finally finish this piece. The ivory I use for blending. So I do, like, if I use some of the greens and I'm wanting to blend it out a little bit, I will go back over it with some of my ivory just to kind of blend it out. Now, as I'm making these lines, there's really no rhyme or reason to them, except for whenever you're looking at your reference photo, I'm just kind of going in the same direction of the lines as in the reference photo. And that's pretty much it. I'm not making them perfectly straight. I'm not making them, like with a ruler straight or anything like that, because it just, I don't know, this too straight of lines may end up making me, or when you look at it, just look, I don't know, it may look a little bit too much, I guess, of a hardness to it instead of a subtle or softer kind of tone to it. So it's just, it's not, my lines are not perfect. They're not meant to be perfect, but they are meant to go in the same direction as what I'm going with on the reference photo. So if my lines have a slight curve in them, then I'll go in that same kind of curved direction. I'm kind of keeping with the same kind of, where the leaves kind of overlap each other and go in different directions. I'm just kind of going with that a little bit, but I'm not making it perfect to the reference photo. When using this brush, if I'm wanting to make a thicker line, I will kind of push down a little bit harder to give it a nice bolder, thicker line. And the thicker lines is usually where the shadow or, would be, or the cutoff of the direction of one leaf overlapping another one. So if I'm going to add any kind of shadow or any kind of depth to that, I will make a thicker line. That way I kind of tell where it's at, where it starts or where it ends, where I want to put my shadows, coming from that point, and maybe make it a little bit darker later on. So that's where you're getting that. Now, if you're wanting to make a really, really thin line, then you want to hold your pen more straight up and down and just use that little bitty point, just the tip of the point of the pen, and just lightly going across. And that will make a really, really super fine point. But like I said, I'm just going in the direction of what my reference photo shows, and pretty much my lines are not going to be perfect. They're not going to be super straight. They're gonna kind of be a little wish-washy, but it's perfectly fine. This was definitely a fun piece to work on. I absolutely enjoyed this little corn cob working on it. Definitely the focal point of this. I was really wanting to focus um, basically on the little corn kernels is what I really wanted the focal point to be in this piece. Here I am making the last line there. And see, you kind of give a little bit more of a, when you see these darker lines and you kind of see the direction, how it changes, you can kind of see how it gives it more like it's not all going in one same direction. It gives a little bit of contour to it as it kind of bends and folds and overlaps. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'll end up speeding this part up, like once I get through with this little piece here, because I want to go ahead and get these lines in. But pretty much it's the same thing all the way through, is just adding these little lines and making the thicker, bolder lines for where I want my shadows or my darker points to be. Okay, and now I'm taking out my grays. Now I have only two grays that I used on this. And I used, both of them are going to be cold gray, and I used cold gray 3 as being my darkest gray. And then I went to cold gray 1 for my lightest gray. And that way, whenever I used my cold gray 3 and was working the deepest, darkest shadows, like the darker areas, I'd kind of work on those, but then I would go over the ends of them with my cold gray 1. And that way it kind of goes from dark to light on the shadowing. And if I need to fill in anything, like if there's little spots in my, shadow, I'll go back over it with my cold gray 1 and kind of use it as a blender, since it is a very it is a lighter gray. I can kind of go back over it and kind of blend it in a little bit if I need to. So that's all I'm doing here, is I'll just be going back and forth using my cold gray 3 and then using my cold gray 1 for my lighter gray, just to kind of taper it out a little bit on the shadow. Here I kind of drew a line with my dark cold gray 3, but then I came back in with my cold gray 1 and just kind of came out from that darker line, just so that way it kind of faded out from dark to light. And then I'll go back in with my dark gray 3 and I'll start bringing some of that darkness back out. And usually I try to work in the same direction, like whenever I'm working on these, I'll most of the time I'll work like going the same direction as the little lines are going. But with this shadowing, it's still all blended in very, very well. And yeah, it was just kind of a solid kind of shadow. But I definitely wanted it to go in a similar, I guess, to the reference photo, kind of like in the similar direction. And now I'm taking that cold gray one, just kind of blending it in over the top of it. Kind of fading it out a little bit. That was the cold gray one. And I think that's the cold gray 3. Just at my darkest point, and then I'll go back over it, and there's my cold gray one. And I kind of go over the ends of it, just kind of blending it in, and then also kind of tapering out that shadow. And I'll do the same kind of thing over here to some of these other areas that need a shadow. And now I come in with my green. Now this green here is more of a yellowish kind of green. It is actually, let's see what the name of it is. It is a May green. So it has a little bit of a yellow tint to it. So it is a brighter green. Now I'm just kind of going, like I said, oops, sorry about that noise. I'm actually going into the same direction as the little lines are going. And then I'm taking that ivory. And the ivory is not really a yellow, but can you see that it has a little bit of a yellow hint to it, like kind of coming out? Well, that's because whenever I'm blending in with my ivory into some of that May green has some yellow in it. So whenever I'm using my blender, or at least that ivory, it makes the yellow kind of pop out when it blends out into that white area. So it is giving it kind of that little bit of a yellowish tint. Now I'm going back over with my earth green, just in some of the little lines. And I'm not going, when I'm using the green, like the May green or that lighter kind of green, I'm not going all the way up into the shadow. I'm just going a little bit into the shadow. So that way it kind of blends in. But I don't want to go all the way into it to the very base, because I'm covering up some of my shadow. And I don't want to do that. I want to have some of the shadow and the grays kind of coming in through it. And there I am with my ivory, just kind of blending it out, which it blends out super nicely using this. And there I am using some white. And I'll go back through with some of this white and just kind of go back over some of the areas where it should be lighter in the little grooves. And I will go back over it from time to time. Then I'll go back over it with my ivory, just to kind of lighten it up a little bit. You definitely want to work with layers when it comes to this, and you just keep going with it. You definitely don't want to start out really, really dark. You always want to start out lighter, unless you have done this like with me on the top. You know, I start from light to dark, and as you get going, you kind of know that you can have, like, maybe you want to go a little bit of a, like, that May green color. It's a little bit darker than an ivory. It's darker than some of the other ones, but you know, it's still something that I can work with. It's still a color that I can actually go darker with, and it's still not to that where it's too light neither. So it's kind of a medium color, I would say. There I am adding some more of that cold gray 3 to it, just kind of outlining on top, just trying to get that little bit darker. I am trying to get some of these little lines in there, shaped a little differently, which that's going to be in shadow. So don't have to worry too much about that little piece. So here I come back with the May green. Just kind of going in the similar direction as the way the lines are going. It's not completely filling it in, but that's okay because I want to go back over it with my ivory, kind of blend it out. Maybe even come in there like what I'm doing right now is adding a little bit of white to it just to kind of lighten up some of that May green that's in there. That way I'm not getting too much of a yellow tint whenever I go back over it with an ivory. There is my ivory. And so you could just experiment with this kind of stuff, you know, as long as you're working in layers and going back and forth, just kind of experimenting and trying. As long as you're not going too dark with it, you can usually do multiple layers, add several different colors into it, and that way it gives it more of an appeal, I guess, seeing those different colors. It ain't just one solid color. Now that one there is actually it's another one of my grays. That was a warm gray. Let's see here. See if I can find which one it is. It's like my warm gray. Can I actually believe I put that one back? Oh, actually, been looking all over for this little warm gray, and I had it right in front of me. It's warm gray 1 that I was using, and sometimes I use that at the very end, just kind of take away some of that yellow or that bright kind of color, and I just want to dim it down just a little bit. I'll use some of that warm gray, but I use 1, so it's very, very light. It took forever. I couldn't believe it. It was like right in front of me. So now comes the same kind of concept, just kind of going over it with my my May green. And then I'll go back over it with either the white or the ivory, just kind of blended it out a little bit. There's my ivory. There I'm using some of that earth green, just kind of adding a little bit more of a darker color, or to kind of change or make those lines a little bit more brighter, a little bit more so they stand out. And then I'm going with the white just to kind of bring out the lighter color. And that's just so that way it stands out a little bit better. I'm adding it in to these little lines, that way they kind of stand out. And there's one of my darker greens. That's let's see here, chromium green opaque. I always have trouble saying things, but I think I said that one right. Not for sure. Adding some more of that darker color in there. But like I said, this is just a layering process, and then I will end up going over it with some yellows. Like I'll use a dark cadmium yellow, and then a little bit more of a lighter color yellow, which is light yellow glaze toward the end, just to kind of add that touch of dark yellow and a light yellow in there. And then in some of the areas that I want to kind of, I don't know, I guess you say kind of dull it down a little bit or have more of this. I use like a pale pink to kind of bring it out in some areas, and that would be toward the end. There I am working with some of my grays, kind of bringing in that shadow a little bit more. Like I said, you can always make it darker, but it's hard to make it go really super lighter, so you can always darken it up. And that's exactly what I'm doing, just kind of going over it with my cold gray 3, and then I'll probably go back over it with my cold gray 1, just to kind of stage it out if needed. And there it is, my cold gray 1, just to kind of break it down a little bit, going from dark to light. I'm adding some more in there. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and speed this up, doing the same kind of process using my May green and my ivory to blend. Adding in some more of my darker lines if needed, a little bit more of the lighter color, just to kind of make things pop. And there I went over it, I seen I used the warm gray in there too. And there I'm just using some of my darker green and my darker grays just to kind of bring that shadowing in. And I'm going over it with my May green and some more of my ivory. And then the white. And there I used white over the top of it, and that brings it more of a kind of a drier look to the leaf by doing that, adding a lot of the white in there. And now I'm going over with some of my darker yellows, some of my lighter yellows, and there is my pale pink at the very end. And that kind of tones it down a little bit. There's more of my May green. Just kind of doing a layering process, ivory. And there I'm going over it with some of the white. A little bit of my warm gray. And there I'm using some of the darker yellow, and then towards the top as it curves around, some of my lighter yellow. Going over it with my pale pink to kind of tone it down. So it'll be the same kind of process that I'm doing throughout. If I'm needing to make it a little bit darker, I will by going over it with some of my grays. Here's some of the darker yellow. But this is all just a layering process. And it's definitely been a blast doing this. It's been so much fun. I enjoyed it, and I didn't think I would. I don't know why. I just wanted to do something for the fall. Ended up doing this corn cob. Yes, it may have took me a while, but it definitely was well worth it. It was very relaxing, and it was so much fun, a joy to work with. And there's that pale pink that I'm kind of working with over the top of it. Adding in some more of my grays, kind of darkening it up a little bit more, and bringing it down. And that's my lighter gray. And now to finish up the last portion of this corn cob. Well, if you're new here, please click the like and subscribe. And for all the ones that have been here before, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's definitely been a very, very busy 2 weeks. So hopefully I will have something out new next week, maybe for Halloween, I guess, or I'm still trying to stick with the little Halloween stuff. So yeah, so I'm not for sure what we're going to do next week, but hopefully it will be fun. And I hope to see you all guys, or all you guys there. And like I said, click the like and subscribe. Definitely helps my channel out, and it is growing. So definitely a new channel. And it has definitely been a lot of fun. And there's my final little stuff. I'm just kind of adding them in there, here and there. Well, I'm going to have the finished picture coming up here soon. But first, before I do that, I wanted to kind of show you guys one of the most favorite parts of all is doing the untaping. When you untape it, it's always the greatest part of all. It's whenever you can finally remove that tape off your picture. As long as you do it very slowly and you don't get in too much of a hurry and rip your painting, you definitely don't want to do that. I know I have my little light bar there in a way, but yeah, the most satisfying part of all. If you're seeing some of that brown that's on the tape, that is just from the board back behind it. It's not my actual painting. And one more piece, which is a piece you cannot see below, but it is almost out from the tape. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next Thursday, or maybe there might be a bonus video. Not for sure, but I will see you all next time. Bye, you guys.